Well, we're not back to normal yet, and maybe normal is changing, but things are better than they were a year ago. Psychiatrist Dr. Victoria Kelly is with us this morning with how we can reclaim our lives now that it seems the pandemic may be waning even slightly. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I think when we look back at the course of the past year, there are three main areas that you're going to talk about where we saw some really big impacts in people's lives. They are weight, alcohol use, and stress. And if you're watching us this morning, you're probably going, yeah? Yeah. So kind of walk us through what the pandemic did in these areas.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something we all kind of felt, but they actually have some data now that has come out in January from the American Psychological Association and the CDC and the Census Bureau that have actually summarized exactly how bad it has been for everyone across the nation. And yeah, the biggest things that come out are weight, alcohol, and stress. And especially since today is St. Patrick's Day, I thought it was very important to touch on the alcohol use.
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day is actually the #1 holiday for alcohol consumption. So I think, one point I wanted to make is that as the world gets more and more vaccinated and we begin to feel a little bit more comfortable about returning to, normal, whatever that might be, I think it's really important to take it slow. So before you move forward about how you're going to, move on with your life, I think it is a good point in time to take stock back of how has your weight changed. On average, about 40% of people gained weight through the pandemic with an average of 29 pounds. And that's significant because anything over about 11 pounds increases your risk of having diabetes, and anything over 24 pounds increases your risk for a stroke.
Wow.
And one other thing I wanted to point out is with all of this research, one of the things that they found was if you are a parent, then this pandemic hit you even harder. For example, 80% of dads gained weight during the pandemic.
Wow.
And, about half of us were less physically active than we wanted to. So I think it's important, kind of like a New Year's resolution, you want to take stock of things and figure out what do you want to do. And with that, I'd say the priority #1 is how about first kind of maintain, see what's going on and maintain. So examine your habits of eating if they're unhealthy, any triggers to overeat, and any triggers to have poor food choices. I wrote here hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. The acronym being HALT, and those are usually triggers for self-soothing type behaviors, whether it's eating or drinking.
Yes.
So definitely get an eye out on your weight, and what you want to do there is important.
Okay, yeah, so kind of take a look, reflect, maybe maintain for a minute, and then, as you say, proceed forward from there and make some goals to get healthier. Okay, how about alcohol use? I would imagine that people are drinking more.
Yes, absolutely. About 25% of people across the United States drank more alcohol. And again, it was once again worse for parents.
Yep.
And the problem with this is there's short and long-term problems with it. So one of the first questions that comes up, that I get asked is, well, how much is okay? And so, the National Institute of Drug and Alcohol Awareness has indicated that moderate use is if women drink 1 drink per day, or 3 in any day, or 7 per week. And for men, 2 drinks per day, or 4 in a day, or 14 in a week. So anything above that should definitely be a red flag that maybe your relationship with alcohol isn't the best.
Yeah.
And then there's, of course, other red flags if you actually might end up being concerned that you have an actual alcohol use disorder. And those would be if you have at least 2 of the following symptoms going on. That, for example, you're drinking more than you intend to. You try to stop, but you can't. You're spending a lot of time drinking, thinking about it also. You have to drink to do things. It causes life problems, and you're still drinking, and you have tolerance and withdrawal. So again, the important thing is you take stock, and whatever was going on, maybe it's time to rein it back in and get a little bit more control. So if you think you might have developed a drinking problem, then definitely you want to check in with your doctor. There's a whole bunch of different treatment options. Medications can help, even counseling. And if you're not sure where to start, you can always check in with your local county's mental health board, and they can direct you to services.
So I think, and the third major category here is stress, and I don't know how people would have managed to make it through this past year without stress, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, about 50% of people across the nation indicated that they felt more stressed during this time, and almost 2/3 of us had sleep difficulties. 40% had depression and anxiety, and this is probably the most alarming. About half of individuals had a suicidal thought, and about half delayed healthcare services, which can create long-term problems later on. And, dentists saw increased difficulties with grinding teeth, dermatologists with hair loss, increased emergency room visits for psychiatric issues, and so these are going to be real problems. And what we're seeing now is that third, fourth wave of the pandemic is hitting us. So it's absolutely a great time to take a beat, step back, and before you rush into the summer and try to move on, figure out really with intent and purpose how you want to move on.
Yeah, I think sometimes we do. We just say we want to put it behind us and we just want to move on. And I think sometimes that might not be the right thing to do. We really have to take a beat and reflect and really, not just forget about it, not just try to brush it off, because it'll come back, right? I feel like those things will come back.
Yeah, and the important thing is, these long-term effects haven't been studied for this current pandemic, but what we do have is some knowledge from Ebola and the swine flu and prior pandemics. And it takes at least 3 years for some of these things to kind of show up and settle down. And what studies from after Katrina tell us too is that some things don't ever improve, but it is important to do what you can. And especially if you have other people under your care, like children, you want to be able to nurture this optimism for the future. Because things will get better, and it will take time, though, and it will take work.
Yeah, so try to take care of yourself the best that you can, and, do what you can safely. Not everything is in our control, unfortunately, right now, but the things that are, we could do our best, right? That's all we could do.
Yes, take it slow, rebuild relationships. We've learned a lot about ourselves, so it's definitely a good time to take advantage of that knowledge.
Okay, Dr. Kelly, thank you so much. Really good information this morning. We appreciate it.